Offense is out there, led by Dante Torres. He's in the green no-contact jersey. Torres competing with Sam Kaiser for the backup quarterback spot behind Jaden Craig. And we start off this spring action with Torres calling his own number and scampering across the 35 to the 36, an 11-yard pickup for Torres, the junior from Massapequa, New York. Let's take a look at his starting offense.
Well, with no Jaden Craig, big opportunity for Dante Torres. And one thing Andy Orrick says when you talk about Dante Torres, athleticism. You see it right there, calling his own number to start.
He says he's more athletic than he gave him credit for when he first saw him last spring. Looked good in practice. We saw him in a game as the first handoff goes straight ahead and churning forward to about the 43-yard line goes Isaiah Abe. Abe, a senior from Kennesaw, Georgia, big-bodied back. And again, they don't have the starting quarterback or the starting running back for most of the games a year ago. Exavea Bascon is starting this game on the bench as he recovers from an injury. You got to look at the offensive line there that returns 3 starters.
Timeout.
Also Brian and Brandon Sullivan to the mix.
It's their first of the half.
And we have time to take a timeout. That'll give us an opportunity to let this game breathe a little bit. As quick start, 2nd and 4 upcoming. And Tyler, the goals for this game, obviously the offense heavily favored to outscore the defense in this, but let's go back and look to last year's team. It was a well-rounded group. Even though they didn't really lead the Ivy League in any one category, as we take a look at what they did a year ago, there was really no category that they were subpar in.
I think they did a good job complementarily last year, the two units. And there were some games where the offense carried the load, other games where the defense kept games close and the offense was sputtering. So really picking each other up.
Torres under pressure throws low, intended for the sophomore running back Maddox Reed. And we say sophomore running back, he's a first year right now. He'll be a rising sophomore as we give you those classes. That will be the year that they're in next year as we take a look at the defense to start for the Crimson.
Yeah, and he was a guy last year, had some rushing attempts along a 15, Maddox Reed, guy from South Lake, Texas. And also Abe, it'll be good to have him healthy as well because he is that strong in between the tackles, downhill runner, bruiser at 6'0", 225.
Take a look at those names in the front 7. That is the area that sees the biggest turnover on the team as a group from one season to the next as Torres shovels this one. Reed on 3rd and 4 will get tripped up right at the marker. See if this officiating crew, which is going to be very Harvard biased today, gives them the first down.
I mean, they have to be. But Jack Crowley was right in the face here. You'll see applying pressure, and this is good instincts on a little shovel pass to get it to Reed because they pull the right tackle to get some space up the field.
And what do you know? They gave him the first down. It looked like the initial spot was short, but Harvard's offense will stay out there. And Torres working in that shotgun. The Harvard offense uses that just about exclusively as throwing over the middle, a catch made by Blackburn across the 30-yard line. It's a gainer of over 24 yards, and Blackburn immediately jumping into the mix here on the first drive.
A little play action here. Post route to the left side. One-on-one coverage. Breaks it inside. That was a perfect throw.
Give it to the sophomore running back, Reed, and he'll churn his legs up across the 25 down to the 24 and a pickup of 4 yards. That's a big sign to see a connection like that. And for Harvard, they hope that it's Jaden Craig making those types of throws, but obviously they want to get Torres ready. Take a little bit about Torres. We did see him in a game last year, debuted against Stetson. He threw one pass after not playing in his true first-year season in 2023. But he's a guy who was the Gatorade New York Player of the Year in high school at St. Anthony's. Really talented quarterback.
And athleticism, again, is the big word. We saw last year the 2-quarterback offense with Charles DePrima.
He's got a man open in the seam, looking for the tight end, Sanders Daniel. And he was tripped up at the end, pass incomplete. But a good look there as Daniel was running free in the secondary.
That's the biggest things with these tight ends for Harvard. Athletic enough to get past linebackers, and Sanders Daniel right there. He blew by Sean Line. Line trying to catch up. The feet just get a little bit tangled. But tight ends when they're at their best. Safeties, too small to deal with them, and linebackers not fast enough to deal with them, and tight ends are always a huge facet of this Harvard offense.
It'll be a big test on this green group of linebackers. They graduated all 3 of their linebackers from last season that started. Torres showing off the legs and the arm, but does not connect with Dean Boyd, the senior wideout from Boardman, Ohio. Boyd, like Blackburn, one of the players who was noted by Andy Orrick as a guy they'd like to see establish himself. He's now a senior, been caught behind a few really talented receivers like think about the wideouts from last year who are no longer here. Scott Woods, Cooper Barkate, Caden Oderman. 4th down, and Crimson will send out Kieran Core for a 42-yard field goal.
Highly touted recruit last year, one of the best kickers of his class.
Snap is handled, the kick on the way, and it does curl in past that right upright. And Kieran Core, who had a long of 34 yards in his first year season, he was 5 of 8 kicking field goals, drills his first opportunity today.
Yeah, we're watching warm-ups on that side as well, and obviously the crosswinds you get here. And this is some winter conditions we've had today for April. Temperatures in the 40s, but a confident kick there through the wind by Kieran Core.
Show you some of the highlights from the 2024 season. The great start for the Andy Orrick era. How about a 35-0 shutout in the rain against Stetson? First ever matchup with the Hatters, beating a couple of ranked teams, tougher New Hampshire-based squads that were ranked to face Harvard last year. The 4th quarter comeback, the big cathartic win over Princeton that ended that 6-game losing streak. That was such a key win, especially for a Princeton guy in Coach Orrick.
That Holy Cross game, we've watched a lot of football in our lives. That might be the most wild finish we've ever seen. Right at the end of that game, scoring chances laid, Hail Mary, that was dropped.
So now the second stringers get their first opportunity. Jordan Harris on the handoff from Sam Kaiser ends up losing a yard. And a reminder, even though it's a different group out there, if this squad scores points offensively, that'll be added on to the Crimson offensive total.
So if you're in the battle of Mickey Fine and Scott Larkey, offense versus defense, I mean, with the running clock, I think the number you're looking at if you're Scott Larkey, if you can keep this under 35, I'd say relative success, because obviously a shortened game with the running clock.
Give it back to Jordan Harris. Didn't compete last year for the team. He played in 2023, got into 7 games as a backup running back. And so he has looked really good this spring. And they're happy to have him back as he'll come off the field on a changeover. And just to show you how fluid things are, Maddox Reed, who was a starter on that first team squad, he gets out here with the second stringers. And so it's going to be very fluid throughout the day.
Yeah, we saw Caden Kaufman as well in some 3-wide situations with the ones. So see guys on both sides of the ball.
Kaiser, first chance to throw, and we get a whistle. Flag is out there on the field. He was being harassed by the defensive lineman Christian Nwosu.
Offside. Defense. Number 83. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
And there's a reason Nwosu got to him so quickly.
The coaching staff very excited about Nwosu, thinks he can easily rise up the depth chart, but a little bit too ambitious here. Yeah, just blows by Enzo, the right tackle. That's the one thing you don't want in these games, those procedural penalties, things that are easily avoidable. But you can understand just a little bit amped up there to try and make a play on 3rd down.
Makes it a 3rd and 4 for Kaiser in the second string offense. And they give it to Reed. And he's tripped up. Looked like he was going to get to that spot, but brought down. It looked like maybe Dorsey Benefield was in on the tackle, the sophomore from Fayetteville, Georgia, played in 3 games as a first year last spring. And so 4th and 1. Get a look at the offensive line for this second group. They're really happy with the depth that they have, and some of these guys that are pushing, especially on the outside, those tackles. They brought back both of their starting tackles. We have a 4th and 1, and they'll run it again, and there's the second burst by Maddox Reed to push the pile and get the first down. Looked like he'd be stopped initially.
The pregame compilation, we showed some of the workouts. Looks like those winter squats definitely worked right there. Second effort, just trudging the legs forward to fight for that extra yard.
You talk about big-time football. Maddox Reed went to Southlake Carroll. Of course, a legendary program in Texas before going to the Parish Episcopal School. He's a guy that got playing time as a first year And when that happens, it means that you're doing something really impressive to the coaching staff. And Mickey Fine raved about him. Kaiser has a little bit of time and loops this over the head of Cameron Ware, rising sophomore wide receiver. And get a look at the wheels of Sam Kaiser. From Columbia, Missouri, 6'5", 205. He's taller than the other quarterbacks who have been scratching for playing time, but similar to Torres, more athletic than maybe you look at first glance and think he is.
You see, he had a knack there to get out of the pocket, try and throw on the run. That's one of those broken down plays where he's just looking at Cameron Ware, and Ware just points and says, give me a chance. We're going to turn this into a go route, just unable to keep that throw in play.
Mari Gales and Dillion Bradley are two of the names to watch as safeties for this group as they'll hand it off out across the 40-yard line on a 2nd and 10 play. So it'll be 3rd and 4 coming up here for Harvard. That was Jordan Harris who got the ball at the 41-yard line. We'll see if the Crimson can convert another 3rd and we'll call it 4.5.
Good job from both offensive lines to this point, dictating the line of scrimmage, being able to get that first push of these running plays in between the tackles, yielding 4 to 5 yards.
Kaiser rolling to his right, throws to the outside, and it's just past the hands of Sanders Daniel, the rising sophomore from Alabama. Got better as the fall went on with more practice time, and so 4th. We'll see if they will go for it pretty much on every 4th down that's manageable. There won't be any punts, one thing to note about this game. We won't see the punting units. They'll do a little bit of special teams work between the quarters, but they're just going to try and get in as many plays as they can. That's one of the big goals for today.
Yeah, special teams work, something a big focus in spring ball.
To the outside and just mistimed it. He was looking for Sam Talaga, the rising sophomore tight end from Freeland, Michigan. And so that will take the second stringers off the field, get the first string back on. And just a moment, we'll hear from the head coach, Andy Orrick, give his thoughts on the first couple of drives and how this spring game is going. He was a big proponent of getting this game aired on ESPN Plus and making sure that this opportunity was presented to fans, alumni, family. And so his first string offense will come back out onto the field. Dante Torres will be leading the charge, and he'll be right at the 41-yard line. All right, let's go to Amanda Keene for the first time, standing with head coach Andy Orrick.
Hey, guys, I got to say, it's the first time I've ever done this, Coach, live on the field. What do you think?
Exciting, right?
It's fun. Tell me a little bit about how those first 2 possessions went for your 1s and 2s.
Yeah, I thought the offense had the big play, which helped a lot. We got to make sure we have a lot of those next year. But we were efficiently moving the ball. The defense had some good plays. I wanted to be aggressive with the 4th downs here because we're not necessarily getting the special teams involved a ton. Good opportunity for some of these running backs to get out here, get some live football. And I thought they did a really good job. Jordan Harris and Max Reed, specifically the 2 of them. But I'm happy with how it's gone. It's all about going back and forth here. So, the offense had a big play. Defense made a stop. Got to send the kicking team out there, which I really wanted to do because we didn't get to get as many kicks because we were in the bubble to start spring ball. So it was good to get that. Coach Fine wanted to know if I was going to go for it on 4th down. I said, absolutely not. I want to get a kick. So now it's good because we got the stop there by D. Now we get a short field. They got to have a little challenge here to deal with a short field for the offense. So I'm happy with everything so far.
Great. And as far as how we started this morning, do you feel like this team felt like they were getting ready for a game? Did that have that same energy?
Yeah, we wanted to treat it as much like game day as possible. So we did breakfast together in the dining hall like we normally would. Only difference is we did have a team meeting just because I wanted to make sure we went over a couple more situational things that we hadn't gotten to so far in the spring. But pregame, we want to do the exact same way just because every opportunity we have now to treat it like a game day, it's going to help them be that much more prepared when we actually get to it.
Got to practice that stuff too. All right, Coach, I'll let you get back to it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Guys?
One thing Amanda's got to watch out for, maybe Ty Bartram returning a pick or a fumble all the way back to the house, being on the field like that. Speaking of which, Bartram makes the wrap-up tackle on Maddox Reed. We'll be hearing from the other coaches throughout the day, the coordinators, several of the players. So stay tuned. It's going to be a lot of fun bringing you all these voices and some of the ones that you don't necessarily hear a lot on our broadcast as this team gets ready for the 2025 season. This is the wrap-up.
Obviously, the goal now, and the goal is always an Ivy League championship, but that comes with a little bit extra now playing into December. So I'm not saying it's quite December right now with these conditions, but it's good to play in this type of cold weather. That's the goal.
A little floater pass for Abe, who's got room to run, making his way past the secondary, and finally knocked out of bounds by Owen Johnson. Isaiah Abe, who last year didn't catch a single pass. In fact, he doesn't have any receptions over the course of his previous 3 seasons, but maybe a sign of things to come, diversifying his skill set.
And we said he's more in between the tackles, downhill, forget about that. And it's a couple times now, Dante Torres has shown some good poise, pressure in his face, being able to dump off and get positive plays out of it.
Hands it off to Abe this time, had some room. That offensive line opening up big chunks there, and he's inside the 10-yard line down to the 8. And a pickup of 5 yards on first down. This first-string offense is moving again against the first-string defense. These reps are so important. Andy Orrick talks about he wants to see his guys react to as many situations as possible. It's not just for his offense to run plays, but for this really green group, especially in the front 7, to get used to playing with one another.
Yeah, and one of the facets as well defensively for this Harvard team has been those hockey line changes on the defensive line, 4 fresh at a time.
There's Abe. He is met at the 4-yard line, still pushes his way forward, and he'll have enough for a first down. It'll be first and goal, it appears, as the clock runs out at the end of the quarter.
We're going to have an untimed down.
And so we'll have a down here before we go to the break. So an opportunity for the offense to try and score before the end of the quarter from the 3-yard line. Dante Torres has looked very comfortable operating the offense. He's got Abe, Dean Boyd out there, Caden Kaufman, tight end Sanders Daniel, and Logan Reska. So on first and goal, Torres gives Abe. He goes nowhere. In fact, goes backwards. First man to hit him was Dillion Bradley back at the 5-yard line, a loss of 2. And Bradley, one of those depth defensive backs, stepping up.
Yeah, Harvard goes with a heavy formation offensively,
but in the first quarter.
So we'll have another play. They really want to finish out this drive before the end of the quarter. And, you know, this is the type of game, can't get too caught up on the clock. They're going to get the work in that Coach Orrick, Coach Fine, Coach Larkey want to get in. This is big for the defense to try and get a goal line stop.
Well, it's like, whose line is it anyway? Everything's made up. The points don't matter. So as we go, I step away now. Red zone situation, like you said, big for the defense.
Abe, hole right side, burrows down. Is he in? He is. Touchdown. Isaiah Abe, the senior from Kennesaw, Georgia, finds the end zone, and for the first time today, the offense gets 6.
And a much better job here from the offensive line after there was immediate pressure on the last attempt, setting the edge. You'll see Abe flush out, goes right through that B gap. Plenty of room, just riding off Brandon Sullivan, who cleared out the space.
Sullivan, one of the new starters, this is Dylan Fingerish competing for the kicking duties, and his kick is good to make it 10-0 for the offense. So the extra plays at the end of the quarter work out for the team in crimson. Isaiah Abe's 5-yard plunge makes it 10-0 here in the spring game at Harvard Stadium. Touchdowns, 2,700 yards. Just for comparison, last year he had 23 touchdowns. You see the numbers here. He passed for 2,400 yards. So he need a little bit of a push to break that passing record, but anything's possible with another year for this guy who has been so impressive since he took over midway through the 23 season.
Biggest thing you're going to see on this one, touchdown interception splits. Ball security, job security, 23 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, and the biggest thing he said there, growing as a leader, being the vocal guy. You're the quarterback of the offense. You're the leader of this team offensively, and Roommates with Cooper Barkate last year, who you see, so it was very easy to build that chemistry with. You're living a guy every single day, but a lot of these receivers, Jaden Craig, they'll be in the Boston area this summer, so make up for some lost time because that really is the biggest thing in the spring. You can't teach chemistry, but being able to build that, being on the same page as your receivers, we'll see because obviously there's a lot of new faces, a lot of guys that are going to have to step up in bigger roles, and so far the guy Brady Blackburn had that big play from Dante Torres on the poster out.
Yeah, Barkate graduating in 3 years from Harvard and still having another year of eligibility as far as a player, transferring to Duke as a graduate transfer and getting an opportunity to play in the ACC, where Andy Ork is so thrilled for him to have that opportunity. Thinks he's going to absolutely tear things up. And we heard all the stories about what a student of the game Barkate is. It's going to be a shame to not see him in a Harvard uniform next season, but certainly thrilled for his trajectory. And of course, no Scott Woods, who is a grad transfer, is going up to the University of Maine. Caden Oderman moving elsewhere as well. So that receiver group looking really different. And now we get our first look for the Crimson at DJ Gordon. So Gordon getting the nod here with this second group of offensive players. And his first job will be handing the ball off. So a run for Maddox Reed, who's been the most heavily used guy. Gordon is a sophomore, rising sophomore from Indianapolis. And didn't get a chance to get into a game last year, but was an all-state player at Park Tudor High School. And one thing Andy Ork said, that nobody has really emerged fully as that trusted backup quarterback option. He likes the way the guys are playing. As here goes Gordon for a scamper for a few up to the 29-yard line, third down upcoming. So this game is part of it. Of course, the practices are a big part of it as well, but you really want to catch the eye of the coaches with performance like this in a game-like atmosphere.
It's the first time you see a two deep, so it's that rough draft going into the summer of what things look like right now if the season started today for the coaches, but there is still 5 months, a lot to happen, fall camp, before you really get into the swing of things. So I think for a lot of these guys, clear expectations going into the summer, what the coaching staff is expecting is we'll get a blown sack there, Andy Ork helping out the defense.
Yeah, DJ Gordon thought that he was going to be able to scamper up and maybe take off, but Andy Ork is the one calling the sacks behind the play, situated basically with the opposite of the referee. So you see him back there, and he throws his defensive guys a bit of a bone here.
You got to even it out somewhere. Let's see.
Who gets credit for this? 83, that looks like Christian Nwosu maybe was going to close down.
And also Chris Gorman as well, the two ends.
Option play, and Harris will not get where he needs to go. There is a flag on the play, and thrown in the direction of Owen Johnson, an offensive lineman out there. That was Madden Santiago. See what the call is.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness. Offense, number 73. Half the distance to the goal, first down.
So Santiago, the one who gets called for that, and we'll see how they orchestrate this.
Yeah, it's just off. It was the left side of your screen as there was a push Santiago into the second level as got mixed up with Owen Johnson. That is quite the call to have in a spring game.
Add that to the bingo sheet. An unnecessary roughness against your teammate. So they're going to call this first down and 21. They're just going to continue the drive here. And here's Gordon blasting his way through. And oh, look at this. He's got nothing but green in front of him. And I think they'll mark him down way back at the 19-yard line. But boy, you saw the sudden explosiveness there from Gordon. If he, in fact, was able to evade whatever hit was coming his way, that would have been a touchdown.
He's got that second-level speed once he breaks away and accelerates. And
might have been Steven Skortis who was there, the defensive end, closing off, making sure he didn't get that hit. So,
but real game, that's one of the ones you wonder on because the speed that you see Gordon going with, if Skortis can only get one arm, he's not going to get him. So definitely a good sign to see the two-way ability.
Harris escaping tackles, and he's finally tripped up at the 34-yard line. And that's a big pickup of 15 yards. 3rd and short after this drive started with a 1st and 21.
Maddox Reed, Isaiah Bay, Jordan Harris, and this is without Exavea Bascon, so this running back room showing its depth here early.
Defense will try and bow up here on 3rd and 1. As there goes Reed, and he is whipped down from behind. And the strong play by Josh Fedd, the defensive end for Baltimore, rising sophomore, who has taken a big step forward in his game this spring.
He just blasts off the edge. Quick first step immediately in the backfield. See right here, bottom of your screen. He's unaccounted for. You know how Rana goes towards the gap and just leaves the end completely open on this rush play to the right. He thinks he's not going to have to worry about Fed. That is not the case. Good burst into the backfield for Josh Fed.
I should say Fed is a rising junior. Valedictorian of Dunbar High School. Yet another smart guy on Harvard's defense. I think they're pretty much 11 for 11 in the offense likewise.
Yeah, it's prerequisite, I think, to get in.
So that will end the drive for the second string offense. And, I don't know what we're calling it right now, because that was the second string offense with a 3rd string quarterback. And now theoretically we've got the 1st string offense coming back out with the 2nd string quarterback, Sam Kaiser, leading the way. It doesn't really matter, but Kaiser will be the one to lead this drive.
Just put in the lottery ball, jumble it up, and put 11 out there. And for Sam Kaiser, they gave him a couple opportunities on that first drive to pass. Just hasn't found that touch just yet. You'll see maybe if you get maybe a short throw, confidence-building throw, get one.
Plenty of time. Whips it to the right and looking for the running back, Reed. There on the hit was Connor Walsh, the junior linebacker from Charlotte. For what it's worth, it is the top string offensive line and defensive line out there, so we'll call this the ones here on their first drive of the second quarter.
Alex DeGreek, a very familiar name on the edge.
The only familiar name seemingly in that front 7.
They're going to have to build that depth, because that was a big thing last year. It's been that way a couple years, where you didn't just have 4 trusted D linemen. It was 8 to 10 that you could quickly switch out. So the guys being able to stay at 100% readiness.
Reed, who's had a heavy workload today, he gets dragged down at the 34-yard line. Walsh was there on the stop. Might have been Jack Crowley, actually. But you have a feeling that regardless of when Exavea Bascon comes back, that Maddox Reed is going to be a key part of this running back core next season.
You have to be 2 to 3 deep in the backfield, and it sure seems that way Harvard is going to be like. And this one was a patient run for Maddox Reed, not quickly going on his first read, just letting things develop a little bit. But it seems every time he touched the ball, 5-6 yards, good drive starters.
Kaiser to the outside, and that might have been picked up off the turf by Kaufman. You're going to give him the reception out to the 40-yard line. It's a first down. But Caden Kaufman, rising senior from Mount Vernon, Texas, makes the play. And I think if there's one thing that is going to be tough to do, but Mickey Fine would love to see, is just the emergence of these wide receivers, because they're also facing there goes Boyd on the back shoulder and out of bounds. They're going against a really experienced defensive secondary for Harvard's defense.
He just zipped that ball in between A.J. Lopez and Ty Bartram, 2 of the big names in this secondary. That was a confident throw. This was the screen pass. Yeah, just got it, and Benson was trying to hold up. This one, good throw, identifying right away that Lopez was in a zone. Get it quickly before Bartram is able to cover that ground.
A couple of good-looking pass plays from Harvard. The offense moves inside the 40-yard line. Reed on a flea flicker. Back to Kaiser. Breaks down. Now we'll run with it. They blow the whistle for a stop. Mark him down back at the 42-yard line, so a loss of 3.
A good job by the Harvard secondary to not be fooled, as for the first time Mickey Fine tries to pull one out on Scott Larkey. Little trick play, but they didn't bite for it downfield, so Kaiser had to try and do what he can. But it's amazing just what one completed pass can do. Kaiser gets it on that screen and then right away throws a dart, and now they're setting up trick plays for him. So confidence is a huge thing for quarterbacks, and it can compound when you start getting on a roll.
Connor Walsh making a few plays. He's listed as being on the second string when it comes to the linebackers, but that linebacker group is really open for anybody as we get whistles.
Offense, the second of the half.
Well, last year, Harvard paced the Ivy League in terms of all Ivy players. There were 17 selections, 16 total players, as Scott Woods got on there twice, but they only returned this group here. 5 very strong players and key players for the upcoming season, but there's certainly a lot lost from last season.
Yeah, a lot of big names, big areas. Obviously, we've touched on the wide receiver core, but Seamus Gilmartin in this deep tight end group, just think of the chunk plays he made last year. It was big time for the Harvard offense. And Ty Bartram, Damian Henderson in that secondary. That is when you look at year over year, especially on this first two deep, some of the names on it. The secondary really brings back a lot of talent, a lot of experience, both covered corners as well as Bartram, the leader up top.
Kaiser rolling left, throwing down the sideline, and out of bounds went Brady Blackburn, trying to fight through the contact from Damian Henderson. It really is a big test for the wide receivers. We were talking about the secondary being so experienced. They do lose a couple of guys, but when you're going against an all-Ivy player in Damian Henderson and you're trying to establish yourself as a wide receiver like Blackburn, if you do, I mean, you're going to really prove it that you're a guy who belongs, because the guy you're facing is probably going to be better than most of the players you see in the Ivy League on a week-to-week basis.
You're just hoping, if you're Mickey Fine for this wide receiver core, it's iron sharpens iron. You get better going up against these guys. And yeah, Damian Henderson just wears them like a blanket right there. 9 breakups last season.
A little dump off. Jordan Reed inside the 35 trying to find the marker, and he'll be a yard shy. Picks up 15 on 3rd and 16, and I think Andy Orrick's going to go for it on 4th and 1.
Analytically, even if this was a real game, analytically, this is a spot he goes for it. But obviously, he's going to keep going for it in this spring game. But a good job again. Jordan Harris calling his number. Had some numbers upfield blocking. Brady Blackburn opened up a couple yards for him. And now you got Isaiah Bay, the heavier running back. Is this just a plunge up the middle?
It looks like it, and he will get contact, continue to move those feet, and pick up the first down. Bay is a load to bring down. He was described somewhat similar to Aiden Bourget as that type of back, that type of body. And a big guy to bring down, gets the first down. I thought Andy Orrick said something interesting when we talked to him this week about what were his notes that he took away from year one. He said, I've got to make sure that I stay myself in terms of aggressiveness. He felt like he wasn't aggressive enough at times early in the season, especially going forward on 4th downs. And he said, I will not make that same mistake early in this next season. This is Maddox Reed. He'll be tripped up again. It's Connor Walsh taking his shoe off. It's a pickup to the 26-yard line.
I think the Brown game is the one that comes to mind early in the season, that first Ivy League game. Wild finish to that one amongst a lot of wild games that this Harvard team played last year. But we saw, especially this offense, and Andy Orrick did a great job. It didn't matter who you were. Get your best playmakers out there. And when you have guys like Jaden Craig and Charles DePrima last year, you trust them to get a yard or two in those situations. And Harvard got more aggressive. It paid dividends. The chunk plays were there.
2nd and 8. Kaiser has all day throwing downfield for the end zone. Blackburn hauls it in at the back line. It's a touchdown. And there's your highlight play for the rising sophomore, Brady Blackburn. Trying to make a push for a starting spot. Plays like that will do wonders for him.
And just after Damian Henderson shoved him out of bounds a couple passes ago, it's Henderson he beats in coverage, and Kaiser has just gotten better and better. There's the touch. That's a ball that is only in a spot where Brady Blackburn can catch it, and Henderson is right on him. That is perfectly placed, fading the back left corner. Just a perfect throw. How about Kaiser bouncing back? His first 4 passes were off the mark, but he has been pretty right on the money here in this second drive he's had.
Kieran Core knocks through the point after. And so the offense has tallied 17 points, and the first stringers with the second string quarterback scoring 7 more points, and 2.5 minutes to go before the end of the first half of this spring game.
Brady Blackburn, he's a guy who's going to have that opportunity. We touched on him early, and sophomores look good. And obviously, if you're a guy in your first season that is getting on the depth chart and getting some time playing, obviously an exciting prospect. And doesn't really come from the recruiting hotbed of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, but it's also not the best recruiting trip
That
you
is
can
a
go on.
2-minute timeout.
So even in the spring game, it's a 2-minute timeout. No warning
Don't
necessary.
say warning.
No. So when we get inside 2 minutes of the second quarter and the fourth quarter, the clock rules will play out as they do on a typical game day. So we'll have a 2-minute drill improper, going out of bounds, stops the clock, getting a first down temporarily stops the clock, things like that. So we'll have the second string offense, this time led by Dante Torres. So I think what they're doing is they're continuing this backup quarterback competition. Torres getting a chance with the ones, Kaiser getting a chance with the ones, and really trying to make it as egalitarian as possible for these two.
Saw a series as well for DJ Gordon. These are the big situations they were looking for. Keep it the same 2-minute drive. What do they have set up?
There is Maddox Reed out to the 28-yard line. So a 3-yard pickup here. And I don't know how many timeouts they have remaining. Figure that out. Right now it says there's 1 timeout, but I don't know. Maybe Andy Orrick will throw him a bone, give him an extra one, as there goes Torres, and a great connection with Cameron Ware, the rising sophomore from Windermere, Florida. And he's got a first down as the clock stops temporarily.
Another thing, too, to monitor here, defensively, and how do you treat this as well? Because, say, the defense makes a couple of good plays in a row. Does the Harvard offense now take the brakes off and treat it like an actual game?
Misconnection there with Dean Boyd, senior wideout. At previous hookup to Ware, he's a guy to keep an eye on because he didn't get into a game last season, and obviously it was a really crowded wide receiver room to try and break through as a first year particularly, but hey, with no starters back as far as wideouts, that is a golden opportunity to anybody who plays that position regardless of class.
You just see the body, 5'8", 170. He's got speed, that stature scream slot receiver, and that's a big area where Scott Woods was so good last year as they put him in motion here.
Got a flag that pops out. He might have been going forward at the snap, and Torres on the move will end up getting tackled, quote-unquote, by Sean Lyon, the linebacker from Stockholm, New Jersey.
Offside. Defense, number 40. 5-yard penalty, second down.
So an offside call. Cam Walker whistled for it. Take a look there on the right side of the line.
Yep, right there his hand is over the 40-yard line.
So 1:13 to go before halftime. 1st and 5 for the Harvard offense. Blitz coming. Torres over the middle. It's caught. And a first down for the Crimson. Hauled in there by the tight end Sam Talaga. Rising sophomore from Michigan makes his first catch. And now the offense moves into the defense's territory.
Minute.
Torres, pocket breaking down, scrambling free, and he'll get brought down. Mark him down after a pickup of about 4 yards. The nearest tackler was Christopher Ramirez, the defensive back, and the clock continues to run inside 40 seconds.
Now the timeouts come into play. We'll see if they're going to treat it just like it's still the 1, or if they give 3 just with a special situation.
Protection held up, but Torres had nobody open downfield, just has to unload it. And 3rd down and 6 upcoming with 29 ticks to go before halftime. This is the fun game-like experience. Andy Orrick wants to put that pressure on his guys. They've had about a dozen practices or so, but Some are treated differently than others, and of course this is treated very differently, but he tried to make the Saturday practices more game-like, and he said, 7-on-7 you can maybe make an impact, but I want to see what your impact is when we're really doing full tackling or this type of atmosphere.
Yeah, treating it like the bright lights, getting this game on TV as well. Full game day experience.
There's Ware, makes the grab on the outside, but won't escape the coverage as he gets taken down. Tackle made by Trey Thomas, the rising sophomore. Big third down stop.
Yeah, 2 men on this left side. Blackburn blocking off his man, but it was just that little bobble momentary that didn't allow Cameron Ware to turn upfield. It gave some time for Trey Thomas to get over there and close ground. So it was being closed off by Brady Blackburn. There was a lane. Ware goes quickly up the sideline.
Needing to get to the 35. This is a spot where Andy Orrick would very likely consider going for it on fourth down in a regular season game. Torres throws a little bit behind Ware, makes the grab and the adjustment, and scampers free for a pickup of 8 and a first down, and gets out of bounds.
Now this is a play where the receivers on the outside will just go deep into the secondary. It forces the linebackers to get deeper in that second level. And now underneath, Cameron Ware was just able to sneak through. We said slot. That's the type of catch you'd see from a guy like Scott Woods last year. In the slot, just find that opening.
Going back to that left side of the field, Brady Blackburn, who caught the touchdown, evades the tackle and gets out of bounds. So the clock stops with 11 seconds to go. Harvard still a ways from the end zone, but they'll have a fresh set of downs at the 23.
Well, that was a play right there. Blackburn needed to make sure he beat that first tackler and then get out of bounds, because you're treating this like a game situation. Right there, needs to be out of bounds.
Torres putting together a nice drive here. Looking left, he's looking for Blackburn in the corner of the end zone. He's got another. Blackburn's second touchdown grab of the day just before halftime.
Watch out for Brady Blackburn this year. Single coverage, Trey Thomas on the outside, and that was the first read for Dante Torres. You see right when he snaps that ball, you just watch the eyes of the quarterback. He's looking left. He identifies the one-on-one. He's not looking anywhere else. It's just about making a good throw, and he drops this one right in a bucket. The 219s in the corner, and it's Blackburn that beats out Trey Thomas, and a couple of touchdowns here for Brady.
So Brady Blackburn, a 26-yard touchdown. On the previous drive, he has a 23-yard touchdown grab as the point after was good.
That is the end of the second quarter.
Crimson. And even though there's time on the clock, they will leave those 7 seconds and take us to halftime. But after maybe a little bit of a slow start for the Crimson offense, Tyler, picking up in good showings by both quarterbacks, Torres and Kaiser. And Brady Blackburn is both of their quarterbacks' best friend.
I think the biggest thing that's changed has just been the passing game finding some confidence. Early on and really throughout that entire first half on either side, the running backs did well. And we saw a lot of Jordan Harris, Maddox Reed, Isaiah Bay getting those little chunk plays to start drives 4 or 5 yards. But once these quarterbacks started to find it, Brady Blackburn got some confidence. I mean, that touchdown he had from Sam Kaiser, that was beating Damian Henderson. So that is high leverage as it gets.
Well, we heard earlier from the head coach. Now we'll go to the associate head coach and defensive quarterback, former Harvard linebacker Scott Larkey, on the field with Amanda.
Hey, Coach Larkey, got to ask you, how do you feel about that first half of play from your guys?
3 touchdowns and a field goal. Not too good.
Some would say you might be at a bit of a disadvantage because your team can't really score. So how are you still getting everybody motivated here on the defensive side?
Well, as always, points per possession is the important thing for us. So we had 7 drives right there, 24 points. It's bad football.
So what is the message to everyone at halftime here?
In the spring, hustle, fundamentals, physical play, and obviously we're not seeing much of that out there today.
I was just going to ask, what about the mindset? What about everybody's energy? Are you happy with that, or they need to pick it up?
Oh, no, we got a lot of work to do. No, it's not even close.
All right, Coach, I'll let you talk to the guys. Thank you. Guys?
All right, well, Scott Larkey is going to give a pep talk to his group. We'll see how they come out in the second half, but it's been the Brady Blackburn Show here at halftime of the spring game. Harvard's mantra during Andrew Orrick's first year as the Thomas Stevenson family head coach for Harvard football was to go 1-0 each week. Do that, and the Crimson would be crowned Ivy League champions. Harvard opened the season with a statement victory, defeating Stetson 35-0. On ESPN Plus, we've seen a lot of Maddox Reed, who has been handling the football a lot on the ground, 7 times for a total of 19 yards. The defense has been able to bottle up the running game for the most part, but we have seen the quarterbacks find a little bit of rhythm. 3 quarterbacks have played today: Torres, Kaiser, and DJ Gordon. Get a look at Gordon giving the ball to Jordan Harris, and this is when the defense was on top of its game, but the last couple of possessions, things turned around, as you noted, particularly for the passing game.
Yeah, Sam Kaiser, he missed on his first 4 throws, really didn't have that touch downfield, but once he was able to find it, it was one completion. It was that screen over to Caden Kaufman. After that, he was a machine. Rolling out to his left, rolling to his right, throwing on the run. The deep ball was there. Everything was clicking for the Harvard passing game.
That was the second touchdown, the 23-yarder to Brady Blackburn. As we get ready to get underway for the start of the second half, we're going to hear from the man who is the architect of the Harvard offense, as the first play of the half is an incompletion from Dante Torres. Mickey Fine is standing by with Amanda Keene, who made her way up to the press box. Amanda?
Hey, Coach, what are you thinking about that first half of play from your offense?
Just excited we took care of the football. That's the most important thing. And then the quarterbacks make a good decision out there.
Now, we just saw a lot of plays from Brady that resulted in some pretty great things. What have you seen from him today and so far this spring?
Yeah, he's a talented kid. He has a lot of growth ahead of him, but super excited about what he's done in the spring. Obviously, getting in a little bit of the rotation as a freshman, I think has helped him, and just kind of learned from that, and then just did a great job, through this whole spring.
Coach, you don't have any possessions off, no series off up here, just calling offense for an entire game. What's that like for you?
Yeah, it's busy. I don't have to think about the bad things that happen. So, excited about that. And, it's just what we do. We just go out here and play some football, and excited about what the guys are doing, having some fun with it.
Coach Orrick talked to us a lot about wanting to make this game feel like a true game day here in the spring. How has the energy been like from your guys on offense?
Yeah, they're really excited to be out here. Obviously, culmination of all the work that they've put into in the spring to actually have a game-like atmosphere is exciting stuff for them. So it's been great to see a little bit of success early on. Hopefully that'll continue.
All right, I'll let you get back to it. Thanks, Coach.
He's watching a 3rd and 7 take place right now, and they will give a sack to the Harvard defense. So Scott Larkey was pretty disappointed with his group going into halftime, and boy, it looks like they've made some changes here to start this second half.
Yeah, pretty candid and honest in that interview with Amanda going into halftime. And I think the big thing you want to see if you're Scott Larkey, an emotional response. Try and churn that up. He was not happy with the energy in the first half. And for this Harvard team defensively, the standard is the standard. That doesn't change whether it's during the season or it's the spring game.
And, I think we'll give Mickey Fine a mulligan. He was trying to call the offense while doing an interview with Amanda Keene, so maybe that's why they get a 3 and out here, and the second stringers will take over here for their first possession of the second half. But Mickey Fine's done such a great job. It's been great to see how he has been able to adjust to a new head coach, and things didn't change dramatically, but just a different set of eyes kind of looking over your offense helped maybe open up some things last season for this Harvard team.
Well, how about who's under center now he's going to have to call plays for?
This would be Ty Fine, Mickey's son, who missed his first season, much of it with an injury that he suffered at the end of his high school career. And so here he is, healthy enough to participate in the spring game. Ty Fine, a rising sophomore, getting his first action. And I would imagine this quarterback's strengths pretty well if you're sending out plays for him, right?
Said chemistry is a big thing. You can't teach chemistry, and obviously there will be a lot of chemistry between quarterback and coordinator. Good thing that interview with Amanda and Mickey came the last series, not this one for Ty.
He hands the ball off to Makai Moore, a senior running back, and he'll push his way forward to the 40-yard line, the 41. So 3rd and 4. We'll see if Ty gets his first opportunity to throw a pass here in this spring game. He's a sophomore from Concord, 6'1", 195. And he will be joined in the backfield by rising junior running back Kyle Johnson. Sends the tight end Talaga in motion to the right. On 3rd and 4, Fine. All day to throw, and now he'll keep it himself, but he runs into a quartet of Harvard defenders, so will only be given credit for a 1-yard run, and the Harvard defense is looking very strong as the offense will go for it on 4th down.
Well, obvious pass situation here on 3rd and medium, and what does Harvard do defensively? They only send 3, 8 back in coverage, and so there's really nothing for Ty Fine to look at.
So the play coming in. And Fine will have 2 wide receivers to the right. And once again, Talaga moving this time in motion to the left. Play clock was running down under pressure. Fine gets rid of it, but it's incomplete out in front of Johnson. And so the Crimson can't get it on 4th down. The next drive will start back down at about the 25-yard line. So we know that the Crimson went 8-2 last year in their first season under Andy Orrick. Let's take a look at the schedule for 2025. It starts on the road in Florida. Crimson, it's their first time ever going to the state of Florida. They haven't played a team out of Florida in forever. They hosted Stetson last year. They go to Stetson on September 20th and then come home for a game against Brown. You know that the Crims will be looking for a little bit of payback in their home opener against the Bears.
Yeah, a little sour taste left from that Ivy opener last year. What a comeback it was at the end for the Bears. So yeah, starting their season in beautiful DeLand, Florida, where they would love to be right now and not this rain that's been falling.
And so the FCS postseason, something that Harvard hopes to participate in. There used to be 11 auto bids. Now it's 12, with the Ivy League announcing that they will participate in the postseason for the first time. As this is a long ball, it's incomplete and broken up with an interception by Ty Bartram. Bartram making the play on what looked to be a big gainer to Brady Blackburn.
Out of nowhere comes Ty Bartram. Another post route. Couple of guys hit into each other in the secondary. Blackburn is open on this cut middle. He was wide open, but just lofted a little bit too much. Bartram, a direct route to it. That's where he had pick sixes in his career, getting right to the ball. He has such a knack for it. And what a catch there as well. One-handed at extension, because that ball was over his head, but he comes back for it, and that is Ty Bartram at his finest right there.
Well, Bartram, his head coach spoke so glowingly. He said, last year he was hurt at this time of year, was recovering from an injury, didn't really get a chance to participate day in and day out in the spring, and he led in a different way, more of a lead-by-example type guy. Well, being named the captain, the sole captain on Harvard, you have to be a little bit more vocal. He's been getting used to that, leading, and he's not the type of player who's just going to say something just to hear his own voice. When he talks, other guys listen because he's not one to speak up all the time. As the running play will be given to Mekhi Moore as he'll make his way to the 28-yard line on this next drive. It's being led by DJ Gordon again.
And when your words are less frequent, they hold a lot more weight, and that's the case for Ty Bartram, obviously stepping into a bigger role where he has that C. Was always a leader just based on how much experience he had, how important he was, the defensive fold, the leader of the secondary, but now the leader of this team.
We talked about the schedule just a few moments ago, as there's a wild snap and a handoff given, and not going very far. There's the Crimson. No gain on the play here for Reed. There used to be a time, Tyler, where you could look at that schedule and say, okay, there's a win, there's a win, there's a win. That Ivy League doesn't exist anymore, as we saw at times the last few seasons. The parity is here for real. The last place team in the Ivy League won 2 games, and that was Princeton, team that is accustomed to having at least 5 wins. It's topsy-turvy, especially when Columbia wins its first title since 1961. You really can't pencil in any wins across the schedule.
Yeah, Columbia picked in the basement of the preseason poll, but John Poppy, what a great first year. a share of that Ivy title, three-way tie for it. The three teams at 5-2. A couple years in a row that two-loss Ivy League champs had been there. That was never really the case where a two-loss team was in that conversation, but just goes to show you the parity and how close these teams are top to bottom and how much better the bottom of the conference has gotten.
They give DJ Gordon quite a bit of ground on this run. There was some defenders who thought that he maybe was taken down inside the 30. They mark him all the way to midfield. So Gordon, we've seen his legs a couple of times here since coming into the game. He's got burst and explosion.
Yeah, that one he had that almost went for a touchdown in the first half. Watch out here.
That's a mess, and it's picked up by the defense as Owen Johnson recovered the fumble. Too much traffic in on that play. And the Harvard defense, for the second consecutive drive, comes up with a turnover.
This is just a jumbled backfield. Immediate pressure as well blows this play up. And how about Scott Larkey's defense? He was looking for a response after the first half. Couple of turnovers, and what did Mickey Fine say? Did such a good job taking care of the ball in the first half. That has not been the case here in the second. Defense running the way here in the third.
You know, we get the chance to talk to Scott Larkey every week during the season about his team defense. I don't know if we've ever seen him as upset as we saw him in that interview with Amanda about his team's performance here in the spring game. He takes it very seriously. Of course, he is beloved by his players and the alumni who have been a part of the program. You know, he's a Harvard man through and through, graduate in 1999, great player, played for Tim Murphy, coached under Tim Murphy, and now here coaching with Andy Orrick. He's a guy who's also well respected around the league with what he does with his defense year in and year out.
And the biggest thing, too, for this Harvard program, with the new chapter that started last year with Andy Orrick, the retention of both coordinators. So having that continuity for the program, the familiarity, and he raves about both coordinators.
Torres has a man open. It's Harris, the running back, who makes the grab just outside the 10-yard line. They'll mark him down at the 13, but Dante Torres, everything going to the right. He zigzags back to the left for a big gainer.
This is a well-designed play against the grain, weak side wheel route, which no one accounts for, because the moment that Dante Torres rolls right, the entire defense is going to go that side of the field with them, and you just sneak Jordan Harris the other way, and a good placed ball.
So 1st and 10 from the 13. Harris making his return to the team and making an impact here today is Torres looking for the end zone. He's got his tight end, Logan Reska, for the touchdown. The rising junior from West Seneca, New York, hauls it in and sets the stage for him to make a big impact in 2025.
Still plenty of competition for this backup quarterback spot, but I'd say so far Dante Torres, the leader in the clubhouse. He played last year. 2 of these touchdown passes have just been inch perfect. A lot of coverage in the end zone, but just lifts the big body of Reska, 6'5", lets him get up there with the defense. Can't grab it.
Point after from Kieran Core with a light rain falling is good. 31 points for the Harvard offense. Now we'll go back to the sideline to hear from a member of the Crimson defense not playing today. Austin Jake Guillory is standing by with Amanda Keene.
Hey, I got to ask you, prior to that touchdown, of course, you had a couple of really great stops here on the defense. What are you seeing out of your team right now?
You know, we've got a lot of young guys that are putting in work throughout the whole spring, so it's just a good chance to see all the young guys coming out, and especially with the veterans that we have in the secondary, especially Ty, Damian, just leading the defense. Everyone's getting a chance to show what they can do in the spring and carry that to fall camp next year.
So how are we feeling now as the second half has started?
You know, we're just making adjustments throughout the second half, learning from what we've done in the first half, and moving forward to the second half, just doing the little things right into the second half, and that's really it.
Have you been able to feel like this is a game for you guys today? Have that traditional team breakfast, do all those things? Does it feel like a game day?
Definitely. We're treating it like a game day, just like we would in the fall. It's been a long time coming throughout the entire winter, all the winter workouts, early mornings in the spring. So it's a day everyone's been looking forward to, just like any other game day.
And it's a little strange this year. The spring game's a lot earlier than it has been in the past for your team. How are you liking it so far this early in the season? Although I'm wearing your coat, so I don't know.
Right. I like the adjustment that we've made. It's no different than any other spring that we've had. Regardless, we're gonna wake up, put in the work, come to practice every single day. So just because the times change hasn't really changed anything for us.
Perfect. Thanks so much. I'll let you get back to your team.
Austin Jake Guillory guy made a big impact as a sophomore last season. In the New Orleans native was the Ivy League Defensive Player of the Week, an honorable mention National Player of the Week, had a couple of interceptions in the game against Columbia. As the offense for the second string takes back over, and it'll be a third down upcoming.
He was a guy last year who really took a lot of people by surprise and had a big year in that secondary, and just goes to show how deep this secondary unit is. We mentioned the linebackers, maybe not as deep, a lot of turnover in the middle of the field. Well, this is a Harvard defense that can't play nickel, can't get 5 DBs out there at once, so maybe we'll see a lot more of that too, just based on the linebacking core, if it's more of a 4-2-5 at points with the strength in secondary.
Harvard's offense runs it on 3rd and 8. There is a flag on the play. Looks like they're going to pick up about 6 yards.
Offside. Defense, number 83. 5-yard penalty, third down.
So they'll make it 3rd and 3 instead of 4th and 2. As Sam Kaiser leads this drive, the rising sophomore from Columbia, Missouri. Guy who's gotten better every practice. Had a chance to run the offense a little, trying to earn himself a spot as the number 2 quarterback, and he and Kaiser have, there's been a lot of daylight between those two. As this ball goes to the running back, Reed, we get a flag as this play gets strung out for only a gain of 1 on the outside. And we will wait on the flag. It is thrown in the offensive backfield.
Yeah, usually in the area of holding as plays get extended out to the right.
Andy Orrick is politicking for a certain call. Let's see. He's got the ultimate authority in this game.
Offense, number 55. 10-yard penalty, first down.
And that goes on the right tackle, Derek Osman, who returns after starting last season. He and Spencer Doan on the outside of this group. You see the double team with Brandon Sullivan. Trying to control, it looked like Xavier Agostino. Even though Agostino did not start last year, he was part of those hockey line substitutions. And on the defensive line, Andy Orrick says we need him to be an elite player, and he has the skills to do so there on the inside of a green group on the line.
Yeah, now going into his senior season, expecting big things from him, especially in the interior of the line, the run stuffers that can really set up everything else defensively when you clog up the middle.
So he's out there with Jake Darling next to him on the interior, Josh Fett on the outside, Alex DeGreek has been on the outside as well. Although it looks like Steven Skortis is playing opposite of Fed.
You see the no gloves there from Maddox Reed. With the rain coming down, get a little bit better of a grip. Brady Blackburn still going with him.
2nd and 16 as Torres will go to the air. He's got time, now steps up. Torres with some blocking across the 30 and goes out of bounds at the 32. If they mark him down there, it'll be a gain of 8. Instead, they bring him back to the 30. So it's a 6-yard pickup, 3rd and 10 for the Harvard offense here in the 4th quarter of this spring game. Offense has scored 1 touchdown since halftime. It might be a little bit tougher to throw with this light rain falling, so it's one thing the defense has going for it. The winds have shifted as they often do here at Harvard Stadium. Torres on 3rd down. Over the middle, it's hauled in, and it's enough yardage for a first down, and there he is again, Brady Blackburn, who's been the star player today offensively. He's a rising sophomore from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. He was a guy who kept making play after play in camp last year as a first year. And, you know, one thing that they had to do as a guy coming from Canada, they had to make sure that he was not going in motion forward at the snap as they do in Canadian football. They had to teach him, you can't do that here in American football.
Yeah, just stay put. This one here was another time the defense, they only rushed 3, so 8 in coverage. This is a good job to find the soft spot in the defense, and it's usually the middle of the field where you can find it.
They find Sanders Daniel the rising sophomore tight end. He makes the grab. The short pickup of about 3 yards, 2nd and 7 as we get close to 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
You never like penalties offensively, obviously, but in a situation like this, it gives you that good game experience when there's a holding call. A couple of times we had it with the unnecessary roughness. When you get into a 1st and 20, 1st and 25, that is good learning, teaching experiences for this offense as well. How do you deal with a drive that starts behind the sticks? What does the playbook look like for Mickey Fine?
Torres and did not communicate with Reska, who had stopped. He was coming back to the quarterback.
Offense, number 52.
Matter anyway.
10-yard penalty, 2nd down.
So another penalty, and that'll be something that obviously the offensive coaches want to tamp down, the holding calls, 2 on this drive.
Yeah, sometimes plays like that, those miscommunications can be option routes on the outside where it's on the tight end to just read. You either curl back or go, depending on how the coverage is playing you. And that time, Dante Torres is playing the go route where Reska was looking for the curl.
It's Harris in the backfield with Torres on 2nd and 17. Torres under some pressure, and it ricochets around. Diving attempt was made. That was Ben Alvarez, the sophomore linebacker. Mention how the linebacking crew is green as far as experience. Unlike some of the guys on the defensive line who come back to the team, they played last year even if they didn't start. A lot of the guys in that linebacking crew, they didn't see a whole lot of the field. You got Jaden Kinlock, he played 9 games, had 3 tackles. Jack Kirkwood, 10 games, 1 tackle. And Sean Line, 2 games, 1 tackle last year. Those are the guys who are listed at the top of the depth chart, as this play will be blown dead out across the 40-yard line and another catch by Blackburn.
Here's one thing, and obviously there's roster turnover year after year in college. It always seems like you go into seasons saying there's holes here to fix, especially 2 years ago, some of the top players that had left the program. But it always just seems like for this Harvard program, year after year, guys step up. They fill those roles. They develop into those big-time players. I mean, remember after Aiden Bourget, what was Shane McLaughlin going to look like? First play from scrimmage, 80 yards. Okay, we're fine here. So guys do fill those roles, step up, and Brady Blackburn's obviously been the one that stuck out today.
Well, I mentioned how everybody in the Ivy League has a chance seemingly every year, and 6 of the 8 teams have won at least a share of the Ivy title in the last 9 seasons. Harvard will try and make it 3 in a row for the first time in about a decade this season. But how about Columbia sneaking in there, becoming the 6th team of the 8 to win the title? That leaves the longest drought as far as teams that are looking for an Ivy title at Cornell. They haven't won it since 1990, and all of a sudden the pressure moves to the guys in Ithaca to try and snap that streak.
Yeah, those 2 teams you didn't see on that graphic, Cornell, like you mentioned, obviously, and then Brown, who under James Perry at his alma mater, they've gotten better, that air raid style offense, which has yielded some big numbers. And back to your point, you said you could look at a schedule and just be like, win, 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 tough game, coin flip, not the case. And teams like Brown have gotten better.
That was a good-looking run for Mekhi Moore. They give him credit for 5 yards as they've moved away from the live tackling here at this portion of the game, it seems like. Sam Kaiser on the run throws short of the target. He was trying to find Caden Kaufman. Another one of those players who they're hoping to get a breakout from. He's been stuck behind a few other guys on the depth chart, but certainly a guy that is capable. And what they really like about Kaufman is he's a wide receiver who is well-rounded. He blocks so well as a wideout, which can be really important for a team that has designs on being a very good running team, a better running team than they were last year.
Especially on the outside, can help with the jet sweep motions when you have a guy who blocks so well on the boundary.
Kaiser, that pass might have been tipped at the line. It was. He was looking to the outside to the running back, Kyle Johnson. And so 4th and 4 to go here. Offense is slowly making its way off the field. Looks like they will concede this series, and the next offensive possession will start with a fresh set of downs. They'll start them at the 35. They've been changing where the teams have started from. Andy Orrick, of course, putting his fingerprints on how he wants this to go. Imagine he's happy with the number of plays that they've been able to get through, but I think that consistency, this is what you like to see, though, in a spring game. You like to see at times the offense moving it. You like to see the defense stepping up and having success, and I think that there'll be some things that both sides of the ball can take out of this in a single-team scrimmage.
So there was a lot of games last year, especially for Harvard, where the offense was clicking, the defense maybe wasn't at the highest level, and then vice versa. The UNH game where, remember, the defense in that second half really stood out against a high-powered Wildcats offense in the first half when the offense was just hitting on those big touchdown plays, the chunk plays to get points in that ranked victory.
Torres in the shotgun, looking left, and this is nearly intercepted. It was bobbled, nearly held on to A.J. Lopez making the play. Could have very well been the third defensive turnover of this half for Harvard.
The old cliche and the worst thing they say about cornerbacks. That's why they're not wide receivers. This one looked like it was intended for A.J. Lopez. Completely underthrown. Caden Kaufman, a little out route and just not the zip needed. Maybe slipped a little bit for Dante Torres. That was well short of the intended target.
Lopez maybe having flashbacks 2 seasons ago when he had a pick six at Polar Park in Worcester against Holy Cross. Earned him National Defensive Player of the Week, as Isaiah Abe will only pick up a couple here. And 3rd and 8 upcoming.
Yeah, Lopez is going to be massive with Damian Henderson, those two tremendous cover corners. He can flip them matchup-wise, field boundary, and then Austin Guillory as well. So a very deep team, like we mentioned, the secondary. I haven't seen Jack Donahoe today, but he adds an extra complement at the safety position.
Under 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Once we hit the 2-minute warning, 2-minute timeout, we will have stoppages like we would in a typical game. The defense trying to stand tall again, and we'll get a whistle for a sack as they had the play action fake and Torres on the move. Once again, another stand by the defense. And they will have the next series start for the offense, and they'll presume the punt there. And with the 2-minute timeout upcoming, the 2-minute drill will start from the 25-yard line for the next offensive possession.
Was a success at the end of the first half, especially converting on 4th down. It was a long 3rd down the Harvard offense got themselves into. They got the touchdown in the end with 7 seconds to spare.
That's a 2-minute timeout.
Well, you notice the field still has the Harvard-Yale logo painted on, and you see the lacrosse lines. This is the swan song for this field in particular, because after spring season wraps up, they're going to tear this field up, put down a completely new surface, and it's not just going to have a new surface, it's going to have a new name, Tim Murphy Field, as it was announced during Harvard-Yale last November, and it'll be obviously a refresh when it comes to the surface, but more meaningful than that, it will bear the name of the Ivy League's winningest head coach.
Only fitting.
So 2-minute drill starts with a handoff to the running back, Kyle Johnson. Ty Fine is the quarterback for his second series of action. Fine only threw 1 pass in his first time out there on the field.
And among many titles that Tim Murphy has had in his career, your broadcast partner 1 week last year.
Maybe the most unlikely of titles for Coach Murphy. But we were thrilled to have him. The door is always open for him to join us on the air as Johnson gets the ball and will make his way to the 28-yard line. So a couple of running plays. The offense theoretically has all of its timeouts, so of its defense. Saw a couple of timeouts taken in the first half by the offense, and right now they are trying to bleed a little bit of clock as they get into the play on 3rd and 7.
Yeah, this is where you see it a little bit situational. When the first 2 plays in the 2-minute drive don't work, you're trying to force the defense's hand to use timeouts. in bleed time, because in a situation like this, you might very well be punting the ball back to the other side.
Fine. Flushed out of the pocket. Throws right side. It's hauled in by Isaiah Kazavensky Jr., the junior from Weston, Massachusetts. Clock runs with 40 seconds to go. And that looks like it's going to do it. They won't try and squeeze out any more extra plays. And, well, they've been playing as two teams today, but it's, of course, one group that has laid the foundation this spring to get ready for training camp on August 20th. And then the 2025 season opener down in DeLand, Florida, September 20th. First home game, September 27th at home against Brown. And Andy Orrick, hoping for as good of a start as in season 2 as he had in season 1, with a win and then an Ivy League championship to close things out.
Yeah, very good in season 1, and now some bigger implications going into season 2 for this Harvard team and the Ivy League as a whole. And these guys will go to summer, they'll get their training regimens, try and come back stronger and ready to go. And again, this 2 deep here today for a spring game, just the rough draft. Things aren't set in stone. We still have 5 months till we do this for real. So it is a good indication for where guys feel they are going into the summer, and maybe a wake-up call for some other guys, some added motivation to come back and try and find their name into some playing time going to 2025.
And some of the names you didn't see today: Jaden Craig, of course, the starting quarterback, starting running back, Exavea Bascon, Ryan Osborne, starting tight end, Austin J. Guillory, Langston Rogers. Some of these guys are going to be playing huge roles. And also, can't forget, there is a first-year class that Andy Orrick is excited about. He said there are a few guys that are coming in to start their Harvard careers that he expects to be contributors on both sides of the football. So, guys that are competing today for a position, you're going to have to compete against some new blood and some players that Coach Orrick is really excited about come August.
It doesn't matter who you are. It just comes down to, do you give the team the best chance to win? It doesn't matter if you're a first year, a senior. It's going to be who gives this team the best opportunities. We saw that last year, and it's not conventional, obviously, to have 2 quarterbacks in the mix and Charles DePrima, but Andy Orrick was very frank. He said, you put your best 11 out there, your best playmakers that give you a chance to win, and you can't say that if Charles DePrima wasn't on the field last year. And what a selfless job it was from him to help this team win in different ways as a quarterback. And now not here. We'll see if that'll be more the case going into the new season. If someone emerges, if Dante Torres gets some gadget plays in there, doesn't really have the speed of Charles DePrima, but a very good game here today.
We're waiting because we will hear from a couple of the star performers from today's game as soon as they wrap up the team meeting, and we'll put a bow on the spring season, wrapping up a little bit earlier than usual, but they have got some work to do here at Harvard Stadium, and we will be able to really get ready for great season upcoming of Harvard football. Who knows who is going to be picked? We haven't combed through all the rosters, but we talked about it. It's going to be a fun Ivy League season, and probably some things that we don't expect to happen here in April are going to happen come the end of November.
Exactly, and that's the way it's been. There's really not a lot that's set in stone. So much that can change between now and then. Guys maybe we didn't see today that are going to emerge as big-time players. So it's just a start. It's the culmination of very good spring for this team. And for Andy Orrick as a head coach now going into year 2, just feels so much more comfortable in his skin as a head coach. Obviously, it's always try and find yourself in year 1. So much difference being a coordinator than it is being a head coach. Instead of just having one side of the ball, you're more the judge and jury on both sides, leading the entire team. And just his mindset going into year 2, and obviously he got a big jump going into year 1, having the continuity with the coordinator, so it wasn't just a clean slate. There already was a lot of things that were in place with this program, but now just trying to build on and be even better going into year 2.
Folks often ask, well, how do the quarterbacks look? And just some of the numbers that we have here from today. Dante Torres was, by the metrics, the most used quarterback in terms of his passing workload, and he had the best day as far as what he did through the air between the first string and the second string. He was 15 of 23, 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Some really impressive throws from him. Sam Kaiser had the second most workload at quarterback. He looked really strong as well. He had the 26-yard touchdown throw to Brady Blackburn. And speaking of Brady Blackburn, he was the star offensively. It didn't matter who was throwing him the football. He was a guy who really performed in his day. 6 receptions, it felt like more than that, 102 yards and 2 touchdown grabs, one of 26 yards, one of 23 yards. Defensively, some of the standouts from the Crimson. Of course, Ty Bartram had an interception. There was a fumble recovery by Connor Walsh in that second half, and a big job stepping up by the defense after Scott Larkey was not thrilled with the way his defense played in that first half, and they bowed up in the second half, only gave up the 1 touchdown. It was always going to be stacked against them as far as the final score, but I think they showed a lot more of the effort and energy that they were looking for in that first half, and that's a good sign as well to see the response.
Well, I did say for Scott Larkey in the situation where you really can't score,